indeed, Big Brother Bear here to give you all that you want and what you need. Today we're going to talk about some tips on what you can do when dealing with a professor/teacher that hates student athletes.
Hoop loudy.
So just in case you didn't know, you are in the place to be if you care about being the best student athlete you can be both at your sport and in the classroom. I put out content Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and do a live session on Saturday. So if you're interested in content like that, make sure you hit the subscribe button, notifications, and I'll see you on Wednesday after I upload this video today on Monday. If you have any questions, make sure you leave them down in the comments because at the end, if I get enough questions, at the end of this video, at the very end, I'm actually going to answer some of those video questions. So make sure, again, put some video questions in the comments and I'll make sure I get to those. Alright, so let's get into it. Number one, when you're dealing with professors/teachers that you feel like don't like student athletes, I want you to not sit with other student athletes, especially from your team. You just got to be aware of the stigma. The stigma of student athletes are they're lazy, they show up late, they're always looking for a handout, they're all scholarship players, they're not very smart, they're just looking for a participation grade, they think everybody should cater for them. That's the stigma of student athletes. And when you sit with other student athletes and any one individual that you're sitting with fits that stereotype, it's easy to get lumped some. It's easy to lump everybody up in that same sum. It's easy to put everybody else in that same category. It's easy for someone from the outside looking in, whether it be professors, teachers, or anyone else on the campus, to say, oh, they're all like that, right? If there's an off-campus party that happens and there's a student athlete there and that person's a basketball player, when you see other basketball players, you speak of them in generalities. The basketball players are the ones always high. The basketball players are the ones that are always late. So the stigma continues to feed itself. So what I'm telling you is, don't sit with others. Don't sit with your teammates. Don't sit with other student athletes. Try to blend in as a student. If you want to be treated as a student athlete, meaning student first, then you need to make sure that you address that first student part and get to that athlete part when it's time for you to do so. When it's time for you to do so, when it's game time, when it's in the weight room time, when it's practice time, you get to the athlete side. When you're in the classroom setting, stick to that student side. I don't want you to be guilty by association. It's funny, I have a good buddy of mine, we went to college together, and he played on the football team, I played on the basketball team. And I remember all our basketball games, all the football players would sit under, we had like some stands that was right by the basket, like kind of like under the basket. And I asked him one day, I was like, hey Rob, man, why don't you sit with the other football players at the game? You know, because they had a cheering section and they used to root us on and we really appreciated them being there. I said, Rob, man, why don't you sit down? And the way he responded to that question, it didn't make sense to me then, but it makes sense to me now. He was definitely wise beyond his years and his mentality. He said, Bill, why would I want to sit down there with football players so people think I'm a football player? In my mind, then I was like, why wouldn't you? I mean, you're a football player, man. Y'all some of the big guys on campus. Why wouldn't you be down? Why wouldn't you want to be down there? His mentality is, look, I know there are negative connotations about being on the football team on this campus, and in his words, he would say, I'm not here for that foolishness. I don't want to be mixed up in that foolishness. He would actually, now this guy is huge. Looks like a bodybuilder. And get this, I can remember him going around campus and people asking him, was he a part of the football team? He said, no, I play golf. Well, no, I'm on the tennis team. He would say that to these individuals. And if you saw his stature, you'd be like, that's absurd. But he just was very cognizant of the fact that he didn't want to be mixed into that same group of individuals that had a bad connotation on campus, had a bad reputation on campus, and he wasn't going to let anybody do that for him. He knew that he was there for school first and football second, and nothing was going to get in the way with that. So again, don't sit with student athletes. Don't sit with anybody that is on your team when you go to when you go to class. And this is helpful both in high school and in college. Don't sit with them when you get to class. Number two is don't feel like you're going to get preferential treatment. Don't act in as such that someone owes you anything as being a student athlete, because that's what people expect. I don't care if you have a game. I have a game, so the professor or the teacher is supposed to give me that they're not supposed to give you anything. Act as though that they're not going to give it to you. Now do the work. If basketball is your sport, you should begin your schedule sometime in late September or October for the rest of that season. So that means you already know your games for all that season. You shouldn't be telling your teacher or your professor at the last minute that you have a game. You should be reminding those individuals. You should be getting your information before the game so you can travel on the road to make sure you have all your stuff taken care of. And then when you get back from the game, there's no one's job to catch you up to speed. It's your job to catch yourself up to speed. It's your job. That's why in some previous videos I tell you that you need to make friends with people that are not student athletes. So when you get back, you can lean on those individuals and see what work you missed out on. And if the professor or the teacher wants to help you out, that's just icing on the cake. But it's not a given. Because people feel that energy when you come back and you're like, well, y'all supposed to do this for me. Right? They don't want to work with anybody that feels entitled. They don't want that. So don't walk around like you deserve any type of preferential treatment because you know how to dribble between your legs. That's what you do. Especially if you already know that the professor or the teacher doesn't like student athletes. If you already know that, it's going to be tougher for you. Number 3, go above and beyond of what the teacher wants you to do. On those group projects when you have in class, how about you take the lead in those projects? It's so easy to be a student athlete and just get the credit for the group project. Just kind of do the little small tasks so you can get the credit. What I'm saying is do the exact opposite. Lead up some of those projects. Make sure that you go above and beyond. If they're asked this, go a little bit higher, just to make sure you have that separation of, look, I'm a student and I recognize myself as being a student, and I don't want to be looked at as just an athletic student. I want to be recognized as a student athlete. So make that abundantly clear. Much like if you was wanting to make a basketball team. If you wanted to make a basketball team, or if you wanted to make the team, or if you wanted to get more playing time, what would you do if you wanted to get more playing time? You would try a little harder. You would try to win first during the sprints. You would get to the gym early. You would stay a little late. You would talk to the coach, i.e. professor or teacher. You would talk to those individuals. Right? You would do the little incremental things along the way that can better your eyes so you can get that more playing time. The same thing would be said about being in a classroom. The same thing will be said about dealing with professors and teachers that may not like student athletes. To be honest, these practices that I'm giving you today are applicable whether you feel like the teacher likes you or not. You have to make sure that you go above and beyond what's asked if you plan on separating yourself from what a normal student athlete, a jock, would do, a dumb jock would do. Number 4, show interest in the actual subject. People can feel the energy when you're just there for a grade. A lot of times, even I grew up with this mentality. If you just show up, be quiet, participate, you can pass the class. Those days are over. Number 5, I say the most controversial tip for the last tip, and that is dress like a student. Now, before I say this, I know it's controversial because here's the thing. You should be able to dress the way you want to dress and still be treated like a doggone human being. You should be able to dress like you want to dress and be just judged by your character. Just be judged by who you are as a person more so than what you wear. Number 1, that goes without even saying, but I'll say it anyway because I don't want anybody to feel like you should have to lose any type of freedom of expression when you're not really hurting anybody. You don't have anything that's obscene on your shirt. Why can't you wear this? And I'm with you. But I also say I'm more worried about you getting to your end goal than I'm necessarily worried about what you're wearing necessarily. Like I'm more worried about you presenting yourself in a way that is palpable to others than you not and being lumped up in another sun. I just want them to know that you're different. I want them to know that you're different from what they've what they've associated with as far as being a student athlete. I want them to know that you're really a student athlete and not just an athletic student. I want them to know that you're serious about classroom, just like you're serious about just like you're serious about your sport. And secretly, I want you to blend in. I don't want them to actually be able to pick you out from a crowd and just say you're a student athlete. Now, I know that people are going to have some assumptions. A lot of times people feel like anybody that's muscle bound, they must be an athlete. Anyone that's black, they must be an athlete. Like I realize those stereotypes still exist, but ultimately I don't want you to make it easy for anyone as it relates to being a student athlete. Now, sometimes it's not always possible. It's not always possible. Sometimes, you're on the way back from the gym, you're headed to the gym. Like I understand everybody can't get creased and shirts starched, ironed, ready for class. I understand that. I understand it all. But I say this only because if you're in a position to do so, it wouldn't hurt. Now, is it a requirement? No, it's not a requirement. It's not a requirement for you to have to wear a shirt and tie or anything silly like that. But I do know that people that may be grading your papers, people that are in positions of power as it relates to academia, may hold that against you and not even know they're holding that against you. Once they see you come as a student athlete, they may automatically have these assumptions of what you're going to do or what you're going to display as far as effort in their class, and they may judge you accordingly. Is it right? No, it's not right. But is it reality? Sometimes it is. So I just want to make sure I'm not trying to be politically correct with this channel, and I'm not trying to be politically correct with this information I'm giving you. I'm trying to give you some information I would want someone to give me. So that's that. I came up with this video because I want individuals to understand that everybody's not a fan of you. Everybody's not, hey, you're a student athlete, we want to help you. Some individuals have been traumatized, literally, from student athletes. Whether it have been because there were some student athletes that came before you that they taught that just had a horrible attitude and made life chaotic for them, or when they was a young lad. I know a lot of individual student athletes they can't visualize their professors and teachers were their age at one time, but they were, right? And what if just think about this. What if your professor or teacher was your age and they were bullied by these student athletes, these jocks? How do you think that's going to affect how they view you? It's going to affect them. So keep that in mind. These people are human beings as well. All right, so they may have a reason, a justified reason of why they don't like student athletes. I'm not here to diagnose them, but what I am here to do is make sure that you're in the best position possible moving forward. I want you to be strategic in the way how you move on campus, so you're as impactful as possible, so you can to get to your end goal beyond just winning championships. That you can actually graduate and pick a degree that's going to feed your family one day. So that's what the premise of this video is. I hope you get something from it. So as always, whether it's on the court or off, in the classroom or out, graduate at the top of your class. Hoop loud.
Hoop loud.